Hello and welcome to day 35. I'm Tomlin's Nyback. This is 365 days towards racial change. We're talking about black issues, black life in America, white power, white entitlement, those issues. You can probably get some emotion, feel emotional and heated, but this is not necessarily a time for hate. We're just looking at, honestly looking at issues between blacks and whites of America. Do attitudes and mentalities still prevail from slavery days? Is there still an impact? Most of the focus is to move us blacks into a better economic position in America, in the world. America, the most, maybe the most wealthiest, rich, land, prosperity, and all that. That's more due to the system, not necessarily the resources, but the resources have been appropriated and essentially by whites. They brought in black labor through slavery, took Native American land. They need to make their own channel. They probably already do. I'm working on black issues here. So that's a little gist of what we're talking about. Most of our information comes from a great man named Dr. Claude Anderson. He has written several books. I like to always hold these up at the beginning of this piece. I want you to get these books. You can find them at powernomics.com or the Heritage Institute, things like that. There's also, you see behind me, hashtag us too, hashtag TOO. That's a community which you can get involved with. Hear more about black issues. There's also a website called Black Enough, BLAGGENUF, I think. I just happened to skip over the link today. With Dr. Anderson's works, we're coming out of three of his books that I've actually read that I can comment on. A Black History Reader, 101 Questions You Never Thought to Ask. Black Labor, White Wealth, Search for Economic Power and Justice in America. We're going to be heavily relying on that text today. And his book, Powernomics, which is his national plan to empower Black America. Now, I want you to know right off the bat, a lot of this information and these resources are dated in the sense that, they're maybe more than 10 years old, but we're talking about a issue and subject that's much older, many times older, generations older, so it's still relevant today. It's going to be a long time before the need for this conversation passes out of existence in America, because there's certain ideologies just embedded and fixed. And it's fixed because the majority population prospers from that. You don't throw out what's prospering you. That's not a human trait. Self-sacrifice and things like that. Those are derived, maybe inherent in your mother and things like that. But overall, we're talking overall in generalities here. About white America and its entitlement, its empowerment, its power, things like that. And we're talking about black vulnerability, ignorance to a degree about what is really going on in America economically, and in a social sense. I'm coming here, having lived on this planet, in this nation for many decades, and I'm getting information that should have been an integral part of my upbringing. My life would have come out totally different, but that too may be by design. Today is part 2 of vertical integration. I do want to get some other things out of the way. This computer sits on a table, and I sit here a lot, do my work as I watch entertainment and look at stock markets and things like that. And I have little treats on my desk, and I do that to keep me kind of engaged, because I don't like really being here. Either I'll be sleeping or playing music and entertaining myself in some way, but the work has to got to get done, even more so than my regular day job. So I mentioned those treats. For one, I registered for two reasons. One is to, it's to entice me to. I got to trick myself to stay at this damn desk to get some work done. Okay, but I learned that trick. I didn't realize it. I seen it before years ago in a place I worked, but I most recently saw it on a Harry Potter episode, if you believe it or not. And I learned it from the great wizard Dumbledore. The guy is powerful enough to beat Voldemort. Dare not speak his name. Um, but after Dumbledore was killed by Professor Snape, and there's a whole thing about that. Very ingenious how Downing did that. I think her name's Downing, that author wove that plot together. Very, very ingenious. Anyway, it's a gambit is what it is. It's very, I like the way it came out. Anyway, after he's killed, they're in his office, and they're looking around, and, it's his office. He didn't prepare. He knew it was coming, but he didn't prepare, and he didn't do anything. He didn't pack his office up. If I knew I was going to be killed or knew I was dying, I packed things. If we know the end is coming, it's like get your house in order type thing. So, but he didn't in the movie anyway. But as they're panning his office, they land. They go by. They don't really land on it, but as they're scanning his office, I notice he's got these little treats on his desk, and I think maybe every once in a while in an episode you'll see him either take one or he's sucking on one or something. And my guess is that they're probably like hard candy lemon drops. That's what I think would in his office. This guy, he's something sour and sweet there that he's enjoying as he's fighting with good and evil and all that wizard stuff. But I said, I need to do that. And I bet I'm not the only person who keeps a treat on the desk that I munch on as I'm doing some work that I don't want to do. That I'm doing the necessary stuff, and then in the midst of that, I have to do that. That's the first reason I was talking about. That second reason is, now this is a Planters. I'm not promoting the brand or anything, but this is a Planters treat nut that's spicy peanuts or whatever. Now the Hispanic community has a similar product, and I take that too. I'm in a living situation where we get a lot of donated food and whatnot. So, but the point is, where's the black alternative? Where's the black process for that, and what would that look like? As we get further into vertical integration, there's the white alternate planters. It's been around a long time. I'm guessing it's a majority white owned brand. And I mentioned the Hispanics, and the Hispanics have a lot of brands out there. They're slowly encroaching into the 7-Eleven convenience store market. It's interesting. First, you see little alternatives here and there, but now they're growing. They're reaching a critical mass where they're starting to dominate. They're getting that market share in 7-Eleven, and blacks just need to get on board. We're going to talk about this, I guess, even through the year. But as I articulate the ideas, blacks are so much consumers out here. Even if you own a store, you're a consumer. We need this discussion on vertical integration is about controlling all the resources and wealth that go into a product, bringing it to market and selling it and being successful. Oh boy, I mean, it's not easy to do. I'm not saying, oh, come on, blacks, get it together, because I know there's evil in the world, and it's not to the white community's benefit for black people to do that. It's not to the Asian community's benefit for black people to do that. But we must. They'll take those peanuts, for example. We need to supply our own peanuts, get our own peanut fields, and get our own seasonings and things like that, our own packaging and whatnot. And then we bring all those supplies together in a space, package that product, bring it to the market, and have some successful sales. And that's essentially a non-perishable item, so it can sit around just in case economic war breaks out, and we have to wait for blacks to buy it. But I'm seeing it's possible for blacks to do this. Begin on a small scale and keep it alive consistently, like it's in critical condition, like you got to baby it. Keep it in a nursery, economic nursery, for a generation or two or three, and really let it get strong before you bring it out into the economic landscape, so to speak. I use those terms because I used to be a landscaper, and I as a landscaper, you're looking at a lot of stuff, and you look under bushes and trees and stuff, you'll see little bushes and trees down there. It's like it's a little nursery, natural nursery underneath those plants and shrubs and whatnot. And I made a mistake. I was so excited. I found these different, arborvitaes and juniper little children under there, right? And I was so excited as I was doing the landscape. I was like, well, let's just take this. I'm going to take this home and water it and whatnot. And the place we lived in at the time had a lot of direct sunlight on the front. So I planted these little babies out there and stuff, and they probably died. They weren't ready for the heat of the day and to be under hours of direct sunlight and stuff like that. That's why they were under their parents like that. So I felt bad that I did that. But anyway, it's the same economically. If blacks would come together, know that they're coming together, doing that, and if we could just get one single thing, just one thing that, like here's an idea, just one thing that the black community would agree on to forget about politics and all this stuff. I included a link about production and American economics and things like that. American economy, pay attention to that, and the link in the brief notes. But if we got one thing going, one little product, now I know you ain't going to get blacks to agree on the thing. You got to have conventions and probably take a generation or two just to agree on the convention where to meet to make the damn product. Anyway, but let's get back on topic. One little product, and agree that when this gets produced, it gets distributed around the nation, and blacks buy it. That just one. If we just get one, that'd be a good thing. I wanted to get to a lot. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about, and that's part of it. Also in the brief notes, I made a statement. I said, death likes to be dead. And you got to look at the link I shared with Buffett's books about how the American economy works and economic bubbles. It's kind of advanced, but I think it's in simple terms, as it's understandable. It's only 30 minutes. Please look at it. But one thing I realize is, the economy is, right, we're familiar with the economy going up and down, right, up and down. And I really wanted to bring out the two extremes, and not to look at the extremes as bad. It's what we're looking at is a life cycle, and that's a good thing. That's how life goes. You know, we can call it a death cycle. You know, when it's going up, death is diminished. When it's going down, death is emboldened. Right. So it's a life and death cycle of economics. And I said in there, death likes to be dead. So death is always having a tension, a pull on it. But let's not look at death as something to rush toward or avoid, and not have a moral judgment about it, but just see it as the necessary movements of life, economics, death. These are necessary things. We don't just go straight up and stagnate, and we don't stay down and stagnate. Life and death goes on and on. So keep that in mind. Read the notes, see the video about that. So, it's day 35. Again, I'm Tomlin's Nyback. This is 365 days towards racial change. I hope your team won. Not a very eventful Super Bowl. I think it seemed very commercialized. Everything was just so clean and there was a structure about it. It was a different Super Bowl, not eventful on a lot of ways. Halftime show I didn't care for. I'm out of touch. I'm still stuck in the 80s. Prince, Michael Jackson, Aerosmith. Come on, let's rock this thing. Anyway, so that's like that. But again, I hope your team won, and we're here with these black issues, and I hope you're not saying, oh boy, they're still doing this black life thing. We had a black woman sang the Star Spangled Banner, and a lot of women empowerment videos and commercials and things like that. A lot of unity, love, and all this kumbaya and stuff. And I hope blacks are not fooled by thinking that blacks have arrived. We never arrive, not until we start with this one product, produce it ourselves, bring it to market, and have it be bought. Now, anybody can buy it. Money's green, but definitely have some black nationalism where blacks buy this thing, and it's got to be a superior product. And Dr. Anderson actually tried this in Detroit. He tried to get some things going. He had the right attitude, but in a way, it kind of takes a campaign. We need almost like a presidential campaign with a lot of marketing and things like that to get that off the ground. But we're not. Even though blacks, were represented in sports and entertainment, and things like that, we're still consumers. And our vertical integration does not happen until we are secure, with our suppliers, with everything. We don't have black-owned meat processing, black-owned agriculture. Got plenty of people working there, and then here's another thing to be careful of is that I don't think we're paying enough attention to Star Wars and science fiction, because we're looking for every opportunity to get rid of manual labor. We're not going to see a trend against that. We're always looking for automation, and know that it is the same as that automation in the United States is the same as outsourcing labor to other countries, second and third world, for cheap labor. And the whole point, and it's slavery. We want free. The idea is to get to a point of establishing free labor in the United States, or for any producer of anything. Robotics, give them a little electricity, some computer programming, and there you got your essentially free labor. You've only paid for, its you're sustaining it, and some programming which you're replicating over and over. It's the same thing that was done with blacks or any slaves. Through the thing, it's a global phenomenon. Okay, even though our focus here is black. So we see. I'm not talking about dominating a space with our skill, like entertainers. Everything blacks do is entertainment. All the big stuff, whether it's a commercial, game show, sports, entertainment proper itself, singing, dancing, things like that. It's still a consumer-driven thing. We're we're those big figures like Shaquille O'Neal, Steve Harvey, even some of the pastors in religious circles. It's still a still black entertainment, and it's a type of high-powered consumerism is what it is. But look at church. Who makes the Bibles that are put into church? Did a black company with black labor make the pews that went into that church? Was that black structure designed? Is it built? All right, you need skilled labor, and you need some union skilled labor to build some of these mega churches out there. Is that a purely black enterprise? That's vertical integration. If you've got control of the supplies, sources of the supplies, how the supplies are used, the configuration of the supplies, who's saying what, controlling the supplies and the labor building the final product out there, and then distribution does who's consuming this. It's okay if other races are consuming. We see that because blacks are spending their money with Asian-owned black hair products, Asian-owned hairstyling, Asian-owned nail upkeep, manicures, pedicures, things like that. Hispanic foods, things like that. That's not vertical integration. Simply because you have successful blacks being consumers. That's not vertical integration. Vertical integration, and what will empower black people, is if we all come together. And then at the end of that chain, it's fine if the distribution and the sale and consumption of this end product is other races, but do blacks have a feeling of national allegiance to specifically desire that product or service, and hold on, and at whatever cost, whatever, to make it, to consume it, and then the cycle can start all over again. There's going to be blacks on the bottom and the blacks on top. So many blacks just determined to be on top and whatnot. And there's a place for wanting to live comfortably, but there are things that dynamic about the process and economics we just can't get around. It's a system, and there's a bottom and a top to it, and that's not going to get around that. Blacks have to kind of loosen up on that a little bit. Asians have done it, Hispanics have done it, whites have done it, Arabs have done it, but see, we're fooled because they're using black labor and black consumers to drive this. We're still the engine making this whole thing work. And so we need to pull off our sabots and sabotage the system by allocating our dollars elsewhere, doing something else with our dollars, circulating our dollars within the black community. Dr. Anderson says that he wants to see our dollars bounce. Um, well, begin to bounce at all. But right now, our dollars don't bounce. There's like a flat. I know you've been with a flat ball. You try to bounce the ball, it just hits the ground and stays there. It molds to the ground. That's what black dollars do after we send it up the economic food chain and it circulates many times with the other races because they're paying their labor, they're producing their own products, and there's at the top of the food chain when they put their products or services out to the community. They don't care who's buying it, taking it, and whatnot. But at the beginning, it's them. They control that, and blacks need to do that. Okay. Um, so when we make microphones, when we are making our own studios and stuff like that, um, then we got vertical integration. But I mean, look. Maybe you're an entertainer. Look on the back of that microphone, that board or whatever. If it's U.S. made, whites made it. Otherwise, it's a Chinese product. So blacks need to wake up. We need to take care of our productivity, and we need to be educators of our children. Put our children in the place of being business owners. I think you see that with drug dealing, right? Don't you see the young black men? They're enterprising young men. They're entrepreneurs, even though it's illegal. We waste so much of that. I mean, you remember the movie Malcolm X, and Denzel Washington is talking about his old cronies and how he dealt. These guys are running numbers and drugs and things like that, and he's like, so and so could have been was a mathematical genius and all that. Think about the East Coast, Junior Black Mafia. Those guys, they got taken down because it was all illegal activity, but their process and their organization was coveted. They compared it to high-powered white successful business. IBM was the Junior Black Mafia and the IBM were mentioned in the same sentence. Okay, it's not we don't lack the potential or the ability. We are just not focused on where to allocate our resources. We ever get that down, watch out, world. There's going to be no stopping us, but we got a long way to go. We got to organize, be unified, blah 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 blah. We know what to do. I mean, in some sense, I'm wasting my breath, but if we can just keep the idea in the forefront, we're going to come a long way towards getting what we need. I wanted to open with this. This is also in the brief notes, but I know some people are notes, some people are in the video, but I wanted to inject this. This is from Black Labor, White Wealth, page 208, and it's a full chapter from Dr. Anderson about vertical integration, what it is, his definition of it, and what I have such an urgency about. I'm going to read that whole paragraph. In the concept of vertical integration, a single entity or group controls all aspects of the creation and sale of a service or product, including obtaining raw materials, processing and manufacturing, then distributing, marketing, selling the finished products. Through vertical integration, the group that controls raw resources and markets can reap the profits without sharing its proceeds with middlemen and others outside of the group. The group has the chance to take its profits or reinvest them in the business. Either way, the group becomes stronger by being exclusive, by being polarized, determined to be single-minded. You know, When blacks do it, it's racism and it's agitation and it's problems and all that. But when whites, Asians, Arabs, Hispanics do it, it's just par for the course. It's fine, fine and dandy. Us blacks need to get better with that. So I'm going to finish with some of this. Vertical integration. It's an outward sign of an inner reality, and just like being saved, um, just like being a criminal, just like being a saint. What the behavior is outwardly is what's going on inwardly. For the most part, we can lie. We can lie. I like animals because animals don't lie. And so that's what we got to be. We've got to be more of that. See, and when we're more of that, when we are vertically integrated and we're have that machine, that black machine operating efficiently, then we'll get respect. Then we can challenge the Star Spangled Banner, which is actually a racist poem. We can do some things, so, when we're approaching legislation and the government, it's not like we're trying to take down the nation or something like that, and it's challenging we can challenge the Constitution and be more of a specific presence in that document, not 3/5 of a human being and all this crazy stuff that's out there. We'll get our reparations, but we got a long way to go. I didn't even get to any of my notes. But I think we're getting the idea, because we're going to revisit this over and over. I'm over time, so stick with me again. We'll see you again. I'm Tom Lynn's Nyback, and this is 365 Days to Racial Change.